everyone. Today's surprise read through is in aid of Mental Health Awareness Week, an area very close to my own heart. So today I have decided to read a very beautiful story which will hopefully inspire kindness in all of your little ones out there. The story that I've chosen today is called The Smartest Giant in Town, and it's by Julia Donaldson and illustrated by Alex Scheffler. So get yourselves all comfy, grab your favourite blanket or something cuddly to snuggle into, and we'll get started. Okay, the smartest giant in town. Okay, and here is George, our giant. George was a giant, the scruffiest giant in town. He always wore the same pair of sandals and the same old patched up gown. "I wish I wasn't the scruffiest giant in town," he said sadly. But one day, George noticed a new shop. It was full of smart clothes. So he bought a smart shirt, a smart pair of trousers, a smart belt, a smart stripy tie, some smart socks with diamonds up the sides, and a pair of shiny smart shoes. "Now I'm the smartest giant in town," he said proudly. George left his old clothes behind the shop. He was about to go home when he heard a sound. On the pavement stood a giraffe who was sniffing sadly. "What's the matter?" asked George. "It's my neck," said the giraffe. "It's so very long and so very cold. I wish I had a long, warm scarf." "Cheer up," said George, and he took off his stripy tie. "It didn't match my socks anyway," he said, as he wound it round the giraffe's neck. It made a wonderful scarf. "Thank you," said the giraffe. Here we can see the giraffe with his nice cosy scarf on. As George strode towards home, he sang to himself. "My tie is a scarf for a cold giraffe, but look me up and down, I'm the smartest giant in town." George then came to a river. On a boat stood a goat who was bleating loudly. "What's the matter?" asked George. "Meh, it's my sail," said the goat. "It blew away in a storm. Meh. I wish I had a strong sail for my boat. Meh." "Cheer up," said George, and he took off his white new shirt. "It kept coming untucked anyway," he said as he tied it to the mast of the goat's boat. It made a magnificent sail. "Thank you, meh," said the goat. George strode on, singing to himself. George then came to a tiny ruined house. Beside the house stood a white mouse with lots of baby mice. They were all squeaking. "What's the matter?" asked George. "It's our house," squeaked the mother mouse. "It burned down and now we have nowhere to live. Squeak. I wish I had a nice new house." "Cheer up," said George, and he took off one of his shiny shoes. "It was giving me blisters anyway," he said, as the mouse and her babies scrambled inside. The shoe made a perfect home for them. "Thank you," they squeaked. George had to hop along the road now, but he didn't mind. He hopped and he sang. George then came to a campsite. Beside the tent stood a fox who was crying. "What's the matter?" asked George. "It's my sleeping bag," said the fox. "I dropped it in a puddle. I wish I had a warm, dry sleeping bag." "Cheer up," said George, and he took off one of his socks with diamonds up the sides. "It was tickling my toes anyway," he said, as this fox snuggled into it. It made a very fine sleeping bag. "Thank you," said the fox. And here we can see Mr. Fox snuggled inside his sleeping bag. George hopped on, singing to himself. "My tie is a scarf for a cold giraffe. My shirt's on a boat as a sail for a goat. My shoe is a house for a little white mouse. One of my socks is a bed for a fox. But look me up and down, I'm the smartest giant in town." George then came to a bog. Beside the squelchy bog stood a dog who was howling. "What's the matter?" asked George. "It's this bog," said the dog. "I need to get across, but I keep getting stuck in the mud. I wish there was a dry path." "Cheer up," said George, and he took off his smart new belt. "It was squashing my tummy anyway," he said as he laid it down over the bog. "It made an excellent path." "Thank you," said the dog. The wind started to blow, but George didn't mind. He hopped on, singing to himself. "My trousers are falling down. I'm the coldest giant in town." Suddenly, George felt very sad and shivery and not at all smart. He stood on one foot and thought, "I'll have to go back to the shop and buy some more clothes," he decided. He turned round and hopped all the way back to the shop. Oh no, but when he got there, it was closed. "Oh no," cried George. He sank down on the doorstep and a tear ran down his nose. He felt as sad as all the other animals he had met on his way home. Then, out of the corner of his eye, he saw a bag with something poking out of the top. I wonder what that could be. George took a closer look. "My gown!" he yelled. "My dear old gown and sandals!" George put them on. They felt wonderfully comfortable. "I'm the cosiest giant in town," he cried, and he danced all the way back home along the road. Outside his front door stood all the animals that he had helped. They were carrying an enormous present. "Come on, George," they said. "Open it." George untied the ribbon. Inside was a beautiful gold paper crown and a card. "Look inside the card, George," said the animals. George put the crown on his head and opened the card. And here, everyone, is a picture of George's beautiful card. Let's see what it said. "Your tie is a scarf for a cold giraffe. Your shirt's on a boat as a sail for a goat. Your shoe is a house for a little white mouse. One of your socks is a bed for a fox. Your belt helped a dog who was crossing a bog. So here is your very own crown to go with your sandals and gown of the kindest giant in town. The end. Well everyone, I hope you enjoyed that beautiful story, and I hope that George and this story has inspired you to carry out some of your own beautiful acts of kindness today. Thank you for listening. Take care everyone.